Now, as a C++ developer, you have some options, and especially since Visual Studio 2005 was released, you now have one more option that you didn't have before with C++. Now you have two basic choices, and I've mentioned these in a little bit different format in the C++ or C++ CLI videos. It was a two-parter. You can go look those up elsewhere in the course. But your two basic choices as a C++ developer are to write native C++ code, and you have some options there. And again, what are we going to do there? We're just going to write some C++ in a standard form. It's going to compile down to machine level code, and it's going to run on the machine. This is very fast, very efficient, somewhat dangerous, all right? And then there's managed C++ options that have come our way thanks to the .NET framework in Visual Studio 2005. And on the native side, let's talk about your options. With native C++, we're talking about something you'll also hear it called as ISO or IEC C++, and you'll also hear it called unmanaged C++. Now keep in mind, Microsoft considers any code that's not managed by the Common Language Runtime, or another way to say that, it's not managed by the CLR. Any code not managed by that is considered unmanaged code. Now if you're a kind of a newcomer to the industry and you're reading it, this is like this great unwashed code that's going to do great damage. That's not what it is at all. It just simply does not get governed by the Common Language Runtime. Now this runs directly on a computer. You can access the Windows API directly, so you can do Windows programming with it, but you access the Windows API directly with the C++, and this, by the way, provides you with the ultimate in performance. So when you've got to write something that runs really quickly, really efficiently, native C++ is probably going to be the way you want to go. Now, if you want to combine native C++ with some of the Windows graphical user interface type stuff, one choice you have is to write your code in native C++ and then use MFC, which in English means Microsoft Foundation Classes. And MFC simply encapsulates the Windows API for GUI, or graphical user interface creation. So this is a way to write the code behind the graphics in native C++, so it's going to run really quickly. But all of your forms and so forth, the Windows API, are accessed, and you get your graphical user interface creation. So the MFC provides the graphical layout for you, and native C++ provides the functionality. Now, let me just warn you, depending on the developer that you talk to, you mentioned that you're doing native C++ and MFC, and that may start throwing furniture around the room. There are those hardcore types out there who say native C++ is the only real computer coding out there, all right? Just nod and smile and don't make any sudden moves around these people, all right? Others will swear by C++ and MFC. Others will call you all kind of horrible names when they find out that you're talking about doing that. Now, the one that will really raise the ire of a lot of people is when you talk about managed C++. Now, managed C++ is when we basically build a Windows application very similar to what we would do with C# or VB.NET. The code's written in C++, but it is completely managed by the Common Language Runtime. Now, the advantage of this is the memory gets managed automatically. It's much harder to create memory leaks and memory problems. And this is a common source of errors in native C++ applications, because memory management can get hard to keep up with and manage properly. Now, it does a lot more than that, but we're going to stop there. But keep in mind that managing this memory, using garbage collection and doing some other things, does add overhead to the program execution. So if you're looking for the fastest, most efficient, smallest footprint code that you can get, C++ native is going to be the way to go. If you can deal with a little bit of overhead and you want the .NET framework to take care of your memory problems and challenges and so forth, then managed C++ is going to be the way to go. So you are going to negatively affect performance here, but you're still getting something for that. So if you can live with the performance hit, managed C++ is a great solution. Now, let me just remind you one more time that managed C++ means that when we finish writing our code and we compile it, It does not go all the way down to machine language. It's going to compile to what used to be called MSIL. They now just call it IL, but that stood for Microsoft Intermediate Language. And this again provides a lot more management, code security type functionalities. And if you want to understand exactly what it's doing, just go grab you a good book out there and dig a little deeper into the Microsoft .NET framework for more information about this. Now, this is not a .NET framework course, so I don't want to go any deeper than that about CLR or anything. We just understand those are your options. Now, you have one more option that I haven't mentioned, and that is to write code where part of the code's managed C++, part of it's native C++, and you can mix and match these within your applications. It does bring up some issues about sharing object data between the two versions and all that, but that's a whole nother thing outside this course. But just understand you've got a lot of options with C++. I just want to kind of make sure you understand a little bit about what those options are, so you don't get confused when you see all these slashes and pluses and things that are going to show up out there in the documentation.